Hello, I'm Lise Christopherson, and thank you for joining me for this episode of Looking Back Colorado. Today we're going to turn our focus to Avondale, Colorado, and the Doyle Settlement. Joseph Doyle came out west in the late 1850s. Well, he came out much earlier than that, but he established the Doyle Settlement in the late 1850s along the banks of the Huerfano River. So we'll have a brief history of the Doyle Settlement, and we will also have the opportunity to listen to local rancher Bill Duran as he tells us about the area. He lives on a ranch that his grandfather purchased when the Doyle Settlement was still thriving, and it's just 2 miles down the road from the site of the original settlement. So thank you for joining me, and let's get started. Joseph Bainbridge Lafayette Doyle came out west as a young man from what would become West Virginia. He was a builder at Fort Pueblo in 1842 and married Maria de la Cruz Suazo in 1844. Doyle purchased his 1,200 acres along the Huerfano River from the Vigil and St. Vrain land grant. This land grant at that time was actually part of the New Mexico Territory until the early 1860s. It consisted of the rivers and valleys of the Purgatory, Pishapah, Cucharas, and Huerfano rivers. It sat east of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, south of the Arkansas River, west of the Purgatory, and north of the Bobby and Miranda land grant. In Doyle's community, there were 600 acres in irrigation and a flour mill. The Doyle house, built of white stone, was known as the White House or Casa Blanca and served as the local post office. The ranch was on one of the well-used trails from Pueblo to Trinidad and was a main outfitting station between the Missouri River and the Rocky Mountains. The school was built and a teacher was brought in, and the workers' children went to school with the Doyle's children. The land was fertile, and between Doyle and his partners, they sold their abundant produce in Denver along with clothing and other supplies. Although floods and other negative natural disasters impacted the communities from time to time, the Doyle Settlement was an active and prosperous multicultural community. Joseph Doyle passed away 5 years after establishing his settlement. His wife inherited, and her mother, Maria Teresita Sandoval, managed the ranch. Times changed, and the focus of trade gravitated to the growing town of Pueblo, and the area of the Doyle Settlement became a ranching community. This area of Avondale continues to offer its inhabitants a life led to the fullest, modern days richly colored by its unique history. As I mentioned before, I have been fortunate to interview Mr. Duran about the area here that he grew up in. Bill's grandfather Lee had recognized the value of the land and its lifestyle, and his decision made so many years ago to purchase land down the road from the Doyle Settlement has assured his progeny their slice of a precious Colorado lifestyle.
Trying to put together a story about the old Doyle Settlement?
Yes.
Okay.
So anything you can think of to tell me about the settlement is perfect.
The Doyle Settlement took place some time before my time. I had some my older sisters, they went to that Doyle school. And that Doyle school was built while the Doyle family was there in the Doyle Settlement. But I had 3 older sisters that attended that school, and it's been a long time ago, but there's a lot of little things about it that people are not aware of, such as the old Doyle, what did we say it was, Joe?
Fort?
The fort, the Doyle fort that was there. It was on the, on my time it was on the Mayer Ranch, which the Mayers had purchased from the Doyles years and years and years ago, but it was there, and there was people that used to come by drive by there, and they would tear the fence down to get in and go look at it, because it was a beautiful sight. It was a fort that was made of white rock stone, and it was really nice. But the that Freddie Mayer that owned the Mayer Ranch, he got tired of having to fix the fence and chasing his cows around, so he just took some farm equipment and tore it down and just piled all the rock up, which was really a shame.
Yeah.
That would have really been something for people to see at this time. But the Doyle people are all, they got there's a Doyle cemetery right on top of the hill there next to the school that they're buried in. So, and again, that was before my time. That's what that cemetery up there is. It's a Doyle family cemetery.
So how hard was it to go from, let's say, here, from this ranch, to go to school, especially like what was the weather like in September and through?
That Doyle school is 2 miles from here, and I don't know how my sisters got to the school. I don't know if they walked every day. I doubt if they walked because the weather at that time didn't allow you to even go outside much, let alone walk 2 miles to school. But evidently my father drove him to school and picked him up every day.
So
that's about the only way you could get there and back.
So what was the weather like then, if it's so different?
When I was growing up, the weather was way different than it is now. I remember having big snowstorms by the end of August and the 1st of September. And the thing about the storms is when they came in, when it started snowing, you would see the ground would hardly ever clear up till it started warming up in the springtime in May. And sometimes you would still have snow on the ground in June. And we're not talking about 2 or 3 inches of snow like we get now. We're talking feet.
Wow.
I remember one time our neighbor up here at the Calhoun Ranch, he had a bunch of cattle that he couldn't get to feed, and he had a big 4-wheel drive truck, and he was trying to get feed to him, and he couldn't do it, so he walked over here he either walked over here or drove over here and talked to my dad, and my dad had a team of draft horses and a wagon.
And what about the land looks more arid now, so did your mom have a really big garden? And
Oh yes. That's the way there was 13 of us children, and that's the way we survived. We grew a lot of vegetables, and she canned a lot, and we butchered a lot of our own beef, and but people just don't do that anymore.
no, I think it sounds like it was such a good life that you were still happy to do all the canning, and didn't she dehydrate the squash?
Yeah, she used to dehydrate stuff.
How did she dehydrate the squash?
Well, she used to cut them up. I remember her setting them down on a table, and then she'd cover them with some kind of cloth to keep to keep flies and stuff off of them, and then they just dehydrate, and then she'd save them, bag them up, and save them for the wintertime, and they were delicious. They were really good.
That does sound good.
Really good.
That does
People
sound good.
when I was growing up, I wouldn't trade that for anything, It just, people wouldn't believe they couldn't survive the way that we did.
Yeah. Did you used to go hunting? I was going to say that your granddaughter and I saw some wild turkey on the way over underneath the bridge there. Is that the Werfenel?
That's a orphan.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the things we did the most is hunt. We used to hunt rabbits and quail and stuff like that. But, them kind of days are just gone. That's all there is to it. It's just different now.
It is different, but you still have a magnificent ranch. It's a 1,200 acre ranch. And how many cattle do you have?
It's the place is 1,042 acres is what it is.
Uh-huh.
And my grandfather had 2 or 3 different places out here, but this is the one that they kept. He had another one that was, it's not too far from here. It was 640 acres. That's what it was. And then he had a lot of little places around. He was an ambitious man.
Yeah.
He liked that kind of stuff.
And how about the irrigation? Because did your mother's garden have special irrigation?
Why, we used to get so much moisture that you hardly
Didn't
didn't
have to
need to
worry.
irrigate anything.
Yeah, didn't have to
In the
worry.
summertime, we got rain. When them clouds started coming over the mountains, there was a guarantee that it was going to rain, and we used to bring the chickens in and cover stuff up that was going to get wet as soon as you seen them storms coming, and it wouldn't miss. It would rain.
Yeah.
Definitely rain. And then we had for water for garden and stuff. My dad had a couple of cisterns that he made that whenever it rained, he would fill them full of rainwater. And if he needed some water for some plants or something, he had the water there.
How did he make the cisterns? Were they cement or were they stone?
They used to just dig a hole in the ground and then they'd line them with cement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. They're still there. Those are still there.
Changed.
Well, no, I think by talking about the Doyle Settlement, I think that's the one thing that's really, you know, that needs to be not for
I agree. And
something that you know, it's irreplaceable. You can't replace something like that. Yeah, if you go around to all of these ranches over here, you can still see cement foundations and stuff where there used to be. There used to be a lot of buildings around here, a lot of them. But
good
you know,
idea. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Duran. I appreciate it.
you're welcome.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Looking Back Colorado, and I hope you enjoy as much as I do how our Colorado history lives side by side with present-day Colorado.